with two knights symbolically sharing one horse. Is this symbolic of the altruistic sharing of a horse, or does the close proximity of two men here have another meaning, especially since the core teaching involved the Kabbalah and ritual sex magic?
It has been widely rumored that the top echelons have been engaging for centuries in homosexual practices, that they have been using these homosexual practices for mind control, not just for horizontal recreation or for kinky horizontal recreation, but for the specific purposes of mind control and of influencing their members. We have nothing against probably 95% of all gays that are basically practicing recreational homosexuality. What we're interested in here is the very small percentage of gay men that happen also to belong to the social subset of secret societies, and especially the most high echelons of these secret societies that engage in homosexuality for totally different purposes, namely for mind control, for social control, and so on. I've heard, for example, stories that the highest echelons of the Knights Templars are a sodomic society. What would you say on that matter?
Well, I think that's true. I think that's borne out. And in fact, when the King of France, I think it was Philip, went after the Templars, homosexuality was one of the reasons for the crackdown on them. But of course, what he really wanted was the fortune, the great treasure, which the Templars had amassed, and also he felt that they were a political threat, and so he would gain several objectives at one time, and also gain their treasure by attacking them on the, by then, I think, well-established grounds of homosexual practices.
So basically there is no way for somebody to go that high in the hierarchy of these organizations without being homosexual, at least in the Knights Templars.
I think not. I think it's almost like a very advanced initiation ceremony, and of course engaging in homosexual practices becomes a final committal to the innermost purposes of the order. And once you've done that, and I guess there's no coming back really once you've been initiated into homosexual operations or activities, there's really, you can no longer be a non-homosexual. There's no coming back from that. And I think that they realized this and that they wanted this as the final commitment from the official.
How about Freemasonry? Have you heard any stories about the highest echelons of Freemasonry engaging in?
Well, if you go back into the most ancient times, religion has always had sex connected to it, and especially the occult religions. Ancient world had a very heavy influence on sex. Sex was used in all of the rituals,
especially
words and terms. And
black magic sex.
Absolutely, and I believe that the people who are at the top of the world today are using sexual magic, and I think that's probably why so much sex is flaunted in movies, television.
The sexual revolution
Yes.
itself,
Yeah.
free
It's
sex.
all part of not a revolution just for freedom and free sex, but it has an integral part to play in the overall occult movements of the world to open the human mind up to sexual perversion. Also lowers the inhibition in a human being to accept anything. And once you have compromised your morals in that way, you are now ready to be compromised with money,
The next step.
the next step, and with power, and then you've been bought. So
Because I've heard that basically the highest levels of Freemasonry are quite a bit into homosexuality,
it
and
should not surprise me.
it becomes basically a very cozy boys club, and in a way an initiation into the next and higher degree is probably all the members of that secret Masonic cell taking turns at the
Well, I have one such
newcomer.
teacher.
Eustace, what would you say about another and very interesting secret society, namely the Skull and Bones, because this is a secret society not of elderly men that have reached the 33rd or the 38th degree of Freemasonry, but these are young kids in the 21-year-old or third year of college that are initiated in that society. Have you heard of any homosexual overtones?
Oh yes, the initiation ceremony of Skull and Bones, which finally began to leak out after many years of total secrecy. The fact is that the initiate into Skull and Bones, first of all, he has to strip off all his clothing, then he has to lie down in a coffin, and there he recites every sexual experience that he has had throughout his entire life, whether with male or female or what they did. And so this is in the presence of his brothers, you see, the fraternity brothers. So in other words, he is totally confessing all of his sexual activity of his life to that time, and they are now in possession of this knowledge so that they have not merely a weapon of blackmail, but a weapon of control, because whenever he sees one of his fraternity brothers around the campus, he knows that that brother knows all of his innermost secrets of his life. And in other words, you place yourself totally in their hands. And the Skull and Bones, of course, was set up by the Russell Trust in 1858 as a branch of the German Illuminati. And apparently this is also an Illuminati technique, probably developed by the Jesuits to force the initiate to place his personal history and all of his secrets in the hands of his fellow members. And then after this recitation of his personal secrets, he then stands up and is supposedly born again as a new person under the guise of the Illuminati Skull and Bones. And the members of this fraternity, by the way, there are other fraternities on Yale University, but it was generally known by the students there that Skull and Bones was the peak. In fact, a Yale student told me one day, he said, it was known on the campus that if you were tapped for bones, you were set for life. You would never have to worry about career or fortune because you would be taken care of. And only 15 seniors each year are tapped, you see.
Yeah.
And they are from the most elite families, the Harrimans, the Rockefellers, and the Bushes. His family was an employee of the Harriman interests, and so that's how Bush was chosen.
Families that have been for many generations into Satanism and black magic and secret societies.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, an element of this branch of occult initiation involves the attempted awakening of the Kundalini in men through prostate stimulation, a subject that I will absolutely not cover here, but for those seeking more information, competent online presentations can be found for free by Montauk Chia, a Buddhist master or Taoist practitioner from Thailand, who I have no affiliation with, but I feel offers a well-articulated alternative perspective for people in the West, coming from an Eastern perspective that has been closely guarded by emperors and monks for centuries. While the harnessing and control of sexual energy does play a large part in occult practices, so does the field of numerology. I try to stress the importance of numbers in the occult with the title of one of my books, 1666, Redemption Through Sin, emphasizing the inescapable importance sacred geometry has always played in Kabbalistic works. Incidentally, 1666 was the year that a Turkish-born man named Sabbatai Zevi was declared to be the Messiah by roughly half of the world's Jewish population of the time. Zevi declared that redemption was available through acts of sin, which included incest and especially religious orgies, which are still practiced today by his modern-day followers in Turkey, known as the Donme.
I've heard about this these orgies that they were having between couples together. They do it within the family, even with children and parents involved.
They are secret Jews. They always marry among themselves.
We know that Dome had a secret religious life, something between their Muslim appearance and their real Jewish believing.
Purim was his favorite holiday. That was the annual wife swappers holiday. It was called Extinguishing the Lights. And by his order, the Jews swapped wives. All over the world, this was not a local phenomenon. Now, all the books say the same thing, that Shabtai Tzvi gained prominence from Iran to Mexico. All over the world, the Messiah was going to come, and he announced the date. And this date, by the way, is significant. He declared he was the Messiah on June 18th of 1666. June, of course, is the 6th month. 18 is 6 times 3, and we don't have to, 666 is obvious enough. And on that day, all of a sudden, it was the time of redemption. And the Jews could do anything they wanted. You know his prayer, the prayer that the Jews quoted were, "Blessed be he who permits the forbidden." That was the actual Sabbatean prayer. And the Jews went through an orgy worldwide. Again, the Christians would call it Satanism. But it was certainly he changed Judaism in the worst possible way.
Very few people have heard of Sabbatai Zevi, who declared himself the Messiah in 1666. By proclaiming redemption was available through acts of sin, he amassed a following of over 1 million passionate believers, which was about half of the world's Jewish population during the 17th century. Although many rabbis at the time considered him a heretic, his fame extended far and wide. Sabbatai's adherents planned to abolish many ritualistic observances because, according to the Talmud, holy obligations would no longer apply in the Messianic time. Fasting days became days of feasting and rejoicing. Sabbateans encouraged and practiced sexual promiscuity, adultery, incest, and religious orgies.
My next guest participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations. Does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl.
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to,
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not. Or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back.
Yeah, you witnessed the sacrifice?
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Uh-huh. Were you raised with a sense of right and wrong, Rachel?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I had both. I mean, to the outside world, everything we did was proper and right, and then there were the nights that things changed, that things just got turned around. What was wrong was right, and what was right was wrong.
My name is Robert Sepper. I'm an author and anthropologist, and would like to invite you to join me in awakening from a long amnesia.
Species with Amnesia, Our Forgotten History, Gods with Amnesia,
Subterranean Worlds of Inner Earth, The Occult Secrets of Vril, and 1666, Redemption Through Sin. I would like to thank my subscribers who share my posts, as I rely on word of mouth, and I appreciate all of the positive feedback, reviews on my books, and I thank you very much for listening.